Hey everybody, welcome back to the podcast. Got a slightly different episode than usual here for you. This conversation you're about to hear was never intended to actually be posted here as a podcast episode. Basically, what I wanted to do was have a quick chat with my friend Allen, who's going to be the head instructor at next year's Operation FlowState retreat. Really, just to capture, frankly, some testimonials from him to talk about his experience last year, his experience inside of our online program, and maybe a little bit about his upcoming role as a mentor inside of our Beyond the Uniform program. And we did that, but basically every single thing that he said was pure gold. And so instead of just isolating like 1 or 2 minutes from this, we decided to put this entire, I think it's like 30 or 40 minute conversation up here as a podcast. So you guys can just listen to everything that Alan has to say. Now, I am fully intending to do a full formal episode with him in order to pull out even more stories about his past, his experiences policing, his childhood, his experiences at our retreat, his experiences in our program, and what he will be contributing to the program going forward as one of our peer mentors. But in the intervening time, this is an excellent place to begin. So if you're curious about Operation FlowState, this is for you. If you're an active duty first responder, curious about what it's like to work with us and why everything we do is so important, then this is for you. Or if you just fucking like hearing cool stories of cool people doing cool stuff, this is for you as well. So all of that said, that is why this probably feels a little bit abrupt or a little bit less like our normal conversation flow. You'll see at the end, it just kind of like cuts off at a random point because I didn't like wrap this up the way that I normally would a standard podcast episode. So sorry for that. But without further ado, let's get into this one with Allen Heaton. Let's see. State your name, date of birth, and badge number for the record to begin.
I swear to tell the truth and the whole truth. Yeah.
No, so for real, Alan, tell us just a little bit about yourself. What are you doing now? Where do you work? That kind of thing.
So my name is Allen Heaton. I'm an active duty police officer. I work as a sergeant for a foot patrol unit in a bar district. I've been a police officer for almost 25 years now. I've worked at 3 different departments. I've been at my current department almost 20 years.
How close are we to retirement as of
Oh
today?
man, I'm hoping to retire maybe 2027, first part of 2027. So we're getting really close.
Hell yeah. Um, all right, Alan. First of all, tell us a little bit of the story of how you found us, because you were just Googling jujitsu retreats in Mexico, and then, or just jujitsu retreats in general, and then all of a sudden, by accident, your entire life has changed like a year later. So,
Totally.
give
Yeah,
us a little
so
recap of that story.
so I was just looking for some jujitsu retreats because I was thinking about doing that. I want to kind of get out there and do that kind of thing. So I was looking through stuff that popped up on my feed on Google, and this one popped up, and it was specific to ex-military and law enforcement for first responders, and that's what kind of piqued my interest. So I was like, wow, jujitsu and law enforcement, military, and then it had that healing element to it too. So I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. Maybe I'll check this out. And um, I looked into it. The place where it was held was really cool, and it didn't work out that year, but it worked out just the next year to schedule it. So and I went into it with like no expectations, and it was amazing. It was like the most amazing thing that I've done in a long time.
Well, I wanted to ask you about the expectations. I can appreciate trying to go in with none, but when you see like grappling for law enforcement, there's like a very specific vibe I feel like that accompanies that of
Yeah.
like tactical bros and everyone's fucking like wearing the Punisher skulls and stuff like that. And then you get there in Mexico and we're like meditating and doing breath work and stuff. So like I can appreciate trying not to have expectations, but what did you think as you kind of got there
You,
and
you
got to
know,
know the other types of people there?
you're right, because cops are notorious for how they are, especially with training, and you kind of have to earn that legitimacy, with them. And
Hmm.
when we got there and I was in the treehouse, I'm like, what the fuck? Initially, because I'm like, God damn, this is like one step up from camping, but started
The
started
treehouse is a very polarizing room. Some people
it.
fucking love it. Some people hate it.
Well, and it grows on you too because, like,
That's
first off, I'm
right.
like, fuck, because one time I went to Guatemala and we stayed in this goddamn bungalow and it was really similar to this, with the screen over the top and
Oh yeah.
to keep the bugs out of shit. So I had flashbacks to that. But after meeting everybody and Seb Lavoie is awesome, ex-military or ex RMCP. Royal Canadian Mounted Police, and he's just an awesome dude. And then Jared Fiquete is ex-military jiu-jitsu guy, and Seb is a legitimate black belt, teaching that seminar, and it was great. So it completely changed my idea of what I got myself into because initially I was like, oh geez, I don't know what I'm doing here,
These fucking
and
tree hugging hippies in the
tree,
jungle.
you know, and after we got going, it was an amazing experience. And then that treehouse was like the most amazing place to stay. Just open air with the noises of the jungle and just laying there. Like coming from like right from work, the week before to like
Oh
the
man.
jungle and that atmosphere it was amazing. Like waking up in the morning to all the noise of the birds and all that kind of cool jungle background noise was just the
Yeah.
coolest thing.
Dude, I was just talking to Cordy about this, like how jaded we are from living here, So like it's nothing special to us. Like we go to the beach almost like once or twice a week. So it's one of my favorite things, just walking people to their rooms when they come into the retreat and just their reaction to the place that they're staying in and just like the seeing the cenote for the first time and
Hmm.
the spiky tree and all those kinds of weird things. Um, So that was your introduction to us. Did you have any kinds of qualms at all about like learning from civilians? Like me and Cordy being civilians. Was that ever like an issue in your mind, or
No, not
not?
really.
Didn't matter.
Because I've been in the martial arts a long time, and I was in the martial arts before I was a law enforcement officer. So learning things from people in different walks of life isn't that difficult for me. I know it is for some cops. Like they really have a lot of trouble with the legitimacy of it, but you can learn anything from anybody, really. And I've kind of taken that attitude throughout my life because if you close yourself off, you're not going to learn anything. So, and that was kind of one of my things with this is like, well, I should like be all in. Like let's be all in for this deal, and just accept what we're gonna. Because I mean, we did the sweat lodge and we did the breath work and stuff, and man, that was completely out of my wheelhouse, but it was amazing.
Yeah, so tell me some more about that because I think when you first came in, you were like, I don't know if I'm going to participate in all of this stuff. This all seems kind of weird. Like I'm here for jujitsu and to like relax by the pool, right?
Right.
Um, so yeah, what? Just tell me some more about that. Going
So
into those weird fucking experiences.
I initially it was the main focus for me was the jujitsu, right? Because I'm like, that was kind of my focus. I was looking for a jujitsu retreat and the main focus of what I wanted to do, and then we started doing some other stuff, and the jujitsu is important because it brings people together. Like it brings kind of people together with the same mindset. But then we started doing some of these other things, like the Temescal, the sweat lodge was like, man, it was really intimidating. Okay, I was intimidated going into it.
Really?
Like after talking to people, like listening, because initially I was like, oh yeah, it's gonna be like a sauna, and it's cool. And then after listening to people talk about it and how intense it was, I'm like, holy shit. That night before I was like, I gotta I gotta suck it up, man. I gotta tough this out.
I
And
I didn't know you were like getting anxious about it. That's
a
funny.
little bit that night before, but and I'm like, okay, we're good, we're good. And then you get in there and it was intense. It was really intense, but I ain't no quitter. But it was an experience. It's hard to describe because you're getting all kinds of input when you're in there, and the ritual and the just everything surrounding it was amazing. And I think for modern people, we're missing a lot of that ritual, whether it's religious or not, or spiritual or not, or whatever. This was a very spiritual event, and it was not denominational, right? It didn't matter who you are, what your background is, or anything like that. It's just very spiritual, and listening to the shaman inside there and everything. It was so cool. And then, like I said, I was like, okay, I'm all in. I want to experience this whole thing. So it became like, okay, the jujitsu is cool, but let's experience the rest of this as a full package. And it was something that was life changing because it kind of changed my trajectory after that week. So just everything about it, the temescal, the breath work, the working with people and the group sessions and Cordish yoga too, and like the sound bath. Man, it was all so new, but it was also just so meaningful. Um,
So with some of that stuff, like the yoga and the sound healing, because I know you just said like, yeah, I wanted to go all in on this stuff, but you actually didn't participate in the cannabis use, right?
right. Yeah.
Do you feel like you missed out on anything by doing that? Did you feel
I,
weird like being high, being sober rather, while these other people
no,
were
not
stoned around
really.
you?
And like I didn't want to do it just because of I don't like smoking for me is not a good thing.
Hmm.
And then just the drug use like on duty and stuff. The marijuana stuff is super easy to test for, so I don't want to be hemming myself up on the end of my career doing that. I
Yep.
didn't really feel like I missed a lot. The thing that I do appreciate is um, the responsible use of the plant medicine, right? Like it's not there just as cannabis. It's there as a vehicle to kind of expand your outlook or your perception on stuff, and it's used responsibly. It's not just people just sitting around getting high and eating like yoo-hoos and stuff like that. So
Yeah, I only ask you that because we always have some people who are concerned of like, oh, I don't want to be around it, like I don't want to be peer pressured into it or what have you. And I mean, for one thing, you can still clearly have a profound experience without it,
yeah, yeah,
and
absolutely.
nobody's pressuring you to do anything that you're
No,
not
nobody
comfortable with.
nobody pressured. There was no pressure at all. And yeah, it wasn't that big of a deal. I mean, if people wanted to, they could. If they didn't, they didn't. I mean, there were some
Yeah.
other people that didn't smoke too, so it was fine with me. And like, okay, I just don't have to experience this part of it. And I don't really feel like I missed anything, maybe, but I don't really feel like I missed out on anything. I mean, so many of the other experiences were so intense and profound that was not that major.
All right, so that's the sound healing, the breath work. Or actually, no, I'm sorry, that was the sound healing and the yoga. So the breath work was a whole other experience. So this is, we the plant medicine is optional for that, and we've had in our civilian retreats, we've had kids there who are like certified fucking stoners, right? Like 23-year-old athletes, like amateur MMA fighters who just kind of get high every day,
Right.
and they did the breath work completely sober, and they said it was like a deeper trip than anything they've ever experienced with like LSD or mushrooms or anything like that. And I feel like you had a similar kind of experience there. So as much as you can put that into words, can you share a little bit about what happened to you during that breathwork session?
Yeah, I mean, I I didn't really like that expectation thing. I didn't really know what to expect, and you kind of hear about what people experience and stuff, but I had no idea what I was getting myself into, and I didn't have the visuals like some of the other guys did. Most of mine was just it felt like a physical release of all the like physical trauma that I've suffered on the job. It seemed like for me that holotropic breathing session was just a complete offload of the physical trauma from the job, my injuries, and because I've been shot a couple of times and stuff, and I had such an intense like physical reaction to that with like full on like body tremors and like just like yelling and like it's just like all the shit came out, just to release it. So I was exhausted after that, but I felt just so much lighter, and I think everybody kind of had a different experience, but man, for me, that was just just intense, and but such a release, and yeah, I still experience some of those like kind of tremor things when I meditate and stuff. And it feels like it's just physical trauma leaving my body. And I think
Yeah.
that was just the beginning of it, and it, yeah, it was, it's hard to put into words what it was, but it just like this huge offload of a
Mm.
lot of that stuff. And it seemed like after that, like those kind of, kind of the stuff with my job wasn't an issue anymore. Like that wasn't what the focus of the healing was. It became, the focus became a lot different. It became like childhood stuff and some of the other
Wait, hold
things.
up. Explain that some more. So you
So,
kind of thought that like the job stuff was like the biggest issue that you were
yeah,
facing,
yeah,
and
absolutely.
hmm,
PTSD, sleep issues, stuff like that. And absolutely, I think that the job is a catalyst for that. But it seemed like after that breathing session that a lot of that just kind of got offloaded. Like, okay, that's really not an issue anymore. Um,
damn.
oh, okay. And it seemed like a lot of the things that came up after that were, way deeper and like the anger issues and shit that I'm dealing with came from something else, not just the job.
It's so crazy how that works. Like I'm reminded of Toby's story where like night one of his ayahuasca retreat dealt with everything related to being blown up in Afghanistan and then the
Right,
decade of issues that followed. And then it was like, oh, now I'm ready to look at being abandoned when I was a kid and being sexually assaulted as a kid. Right? So
right.
for you it's like this one holotropic breathwork ceremony, which you didn't even really know what the hell that was.
No,
And I'm not going to pretend like this dealt with everything from work, but it's like
no,
cleared almost all of this recent stuff. And then it's like, oh man, it unlocked all of these other levels you didn't even know were there. And is that why you decided to keep working with us after that retreat?
absolutely.
Because you kind of got a glimpse into like what else was there?
Yeah, it felt like, you peel off that top layer of the onion and then there's all this other stuff underneath. Like, wow, there's a lot of stuff to work through. And it was scratching the surface, like, oh, well, I guess the job trauma isn't, it's a big deal. I mean, it's definitely something you have to deal with, but it's not everything, so there's always more to deal with. And that's why I felt like, wow, after that retreat, I was just so like in tune and things felt good and I was lighter and I was in a good mood. And, I came home and everything was great. And I want to, I wanted to keep that part of that feeling, and I wanted to continue that work because I knew that there was a lot more that I needed to dig into. Still, there's still stuff I need to dig into, but it basically started that kind of healing journey for me. I mean, it completely changed the trajectory of where I was going and what I was doing. I didn't know what the fuck I'm doing, and now I'm looking at you know my identity, like who am I? Thinking about who I'm going to be when I take off that uniform.
Yeah.
So yeah, like
It's it's funny because in some ways that's almost like a destabilizing thing,
it
right?
can
Where
be. Yeah.
like you had this 1 week long experience, now all this other stuff is called into question.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's why it's life changing. You go to this thing, and I'm like, oh, cool, it's gonna be jujitsu. I get to hang out with some cool jujitsu guys and some
That's how we
cops.
get you.
Yeah, exactly. And they're like, oh shit, there's all this other stuff that, man,
It's
you
like, hey,
you
we
listen.
we we got jujitsu in the van. Come on over,
Yeah,
guys.
come on, free jujitsu. Get in the van. Oh fuck, yeah, yeah.
That's awesome.
I think it's just that realization that, man, I've got a lot of work to do if I'm gonna like face my retirement with a healthy attitude. Um, because for a lot of cops, the retirement is what gets them. They're done with the calls for service. They're done with their teams. They there's no more radio chatter. You don't put your uniform on every day and assume that identity of a police officer. And when you're done, that all goes away, and there's not a lot of contact between you and your team, because their job just keeps going on. Like they're still getting calls for service, they're still taking care of business, and you're not anymore. And so you're not relevant to that world anymore. And it's hard. That's hard for guys, especially when they're um, pouring their whole identity into being a police officer. So, I don't I don't want to feel lost like that. And I think that's what does a lot of guys in. They self-medicate, they drink, they do bad things and spiral. And
And I don't think a lot of people realize that about retirement, because I think that they look forward to it as if retire is going to solve all their problems. Like they put off getting help and they just try to survive the last 8 years of their career or whatever until they can retire. But like you said, then now you have all of this stress that you've been carrying, and you've had an identity, you've had a job to do, you've had people around you, and now you've got all those same issues, and now you're sitting at home with nowhere to go and no one to talk to and nothing to do.
yeah,
That's
I mean,
not really a good recipe.
you've completely lost your direction, and if you don't have something else to put your energy into and a drive or something like that, and if your identity is completely tied to being a police officer, you don't have that anymore. That's that's soul crushing,
Yeah.
so like figuring out who I want to be now before I retire is going to be a lot more helpful, and then having a plan for that, so I'm not just sitting around twiddling my thumbs, because that sucks. Have something to do, have something to look forward to.
So you said a second ago you came home from that retreat, you were like feeling good, you were feeling connected, you wanted to kind of hold on to that. And did you? Because I feel like when you start going through our program, it actually kind of makes things a little bit worse before things get better in some ways, because we start unearthing a lot of shit. So what was that experience like
Yeah,
for you getting into that program?
it's not easy. So, I wanted to hold on to that, because you're in the jungle and you don't have, like, you're pretty much disconnecting when you're there. There's not a lot of email. I didn't look at emails and stuff like that, because why would I when I'm sitting in the jungle doing cool shit and not being tied to all the crap from the job, and you come home and then you're just inundated with all the bullshit again. The job, the house, my
800
retarded,
unread emails.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And we're back, and my retarded dog is here, and I don't have to deal with him. It's just all those kind of things. The complete chaos that is my household. You go from like this calm, cool Zen-like thing to just utter chaos again, and it starts to inundate. And it's like, well, I need to do something. So, and that's why I was like, man, I need to continue this program so that I can just get that balance. And it's not it's not easy. Like, it's not easy facing a lot of those things about yourself. Um, be, because a lot of that stuff you you want to avoid. Like, I've been avoiding it. I've been packaging that shit off for years and years and years. Some of the stuff that came up, I hadn't even thought about for decades, and it brings some of that stuff up. And it can be hard, but it's something you got to deal with. Obviously, you peel that job trauma off. Well, there's all this other stuff that's underneath that. Like, well, I better start dealing with that, or it's just going to eat me away. Because that's what initially was causing anger issues and things like that anyway.
Mm.
So
That's what
being
I was going
able,
to ask you. Like, why do you think it's important? Like, what in your understanding, why did we take you guys all through that process? Like, why do you think that that was all necessary to unearth these things that you haven't thought about for decades? Because some people would say, like, let sleeping dogs lie. Like, why am I going to pick at that scab? You know what I'm saying? So, what's the
yeah,
value in that, do you think?
uh, if you just avoid it, that issue is still there. Like, it's still there under the surface. So, like, tearing that layer off and looking at it like, oh shit, that's what some of this is coming from, and then I can start to deal with it. Like, okay, I can, come to some realization about it. Like, okay, am I that person anymore? No. Is this something that became part of my identity? Yes. Is it good or bad? Do I need to let it go? Is this something that was at the time useful and is no longer useful now? Yes. So you're tearing it away, but you're taking a good hard look at why those things are happening. Like, why am I so fucking angry all the time? Why am I sitting in my car screaming at people that cut me off? Well, part of it's because they're dumb shits, but the other part of it is, like, I've got this underlying anger that that's like my norm, is this underlying anger that I'm dealing with all the time. Well, I don't. Maybe I just need to kind of start letting that shit go, and then you start you start feeling that release again, like that lightness that, like
Mm.
I feel a little better. And then shit'll come up again. And you're like, okay. But I think you're developing tools to look at the reasoning for some of this stuff, and um, I think because in our initial conversations we talked about, well, what are some of the things that are, just crappy habits, and doom scrolling in the morning and snoozing my alarm and doing stupid shit like that, and just making small changes, even in that made a huge difference in how I start my day, and that started like this snowball effect, like, wow, this is really starting to, and I'm still doing that. I don't scroll. I don't snooze my alarm. I journal every night. I meditate every day, and it's just better.
What was different about this compared to other things that you've seen or done before? Because I don't think anything that we teach people in terms of the habits and the journaling, the morning routine, like none of that's fucking rocket science, right?
No.
Like you've probably you've always known you're supposed to be doing that stuff. And you've probably sat through like, the department HR person putting on some wellness presentations or, the counseling after a critical incident and things like that. What was different about what we did inside this program than all the normal stuff that the job probably provided to you?
I think I think me going to that retreat and then seeing how much you guys care,
Mm.
and building that level of trust with you, you and Cordy both, and then talking about going into this program afterwards, like, well, maybe here's some things that can help you. I'm like, okay, well, you know what? Maybe maybe I should actually make an effort to do this because I trust you. I trust where you're coming from, and I know that you care, and I know that
Mm.
Cordy cares, and that comes across genuine. And after being at that retreat and just be like, okay, I'm gonna try this out. I don't know where I'm going, but wow. And then good things happened. Well, why not with this program? Try this too.
Fair
And
enough.
some good things happened, and I'm sticking with it, and like it just makes things better. So I think some of it is just having that trust in you, because you talk to the HR person. I don't trust the HR person. And the HR person doesn't know me. I mean, we got to know each other pretty good in a week, not super intimately, but you get you can't do jujitsu with people without starting to get to know them pretty well. Because
It's true.
smashing people into the mat and sweating on them and rolling around and stuff, that it creates a different level of understanding with people. And it's a great vehicle for building bonds with people, because you bond with people that you would never ever bond with in any other situation in your life, because you're dealing with people from all different walks of life. And this retreat was even more intimate because some of those, like, sharing circles, man, people told some shit that was like really, really deep. And, and, you can't hear some of those things about people without, number one, identifying with some of it, and then just feeling a connection with them.
Yeah, the sharing circles got particularly intense at that retreat.
Yeah.
And I think that's a great way to just characterize like the value of jujitsu in healing is like forging those bonds with people.
Mhm.
Because I mean, as you know, our jujitsu retreat, like the jujitsu is legit, but you're not learning like, competition tested techniques there. We're using it as a tool to connect to people, as another modality of healing, which might sound silly to some people, but I think that's really what jujitsu can be if approached properly.
For me, I think that's the biggest part of jujitsu is I'm not gonna I'm not gonna win pans. I'm not gonna win worlds. I'm not gonna do any of that kind of stuff. And I'm probably never gonna be the best of the best. But that doesn't really matter. What matters is like the bonds you build with people. Like some of my best friends are jujitsu guys that I've trained with for 6 8 years. We're like the best of friends, and they're the only other guys that I can share stuff with. Um, intimately and back and forth. Yeah, they're the only dudes outside of family that I'm like, hey man, I love you, you know, and that's big for guys, a
Mm-hmm.
bunch of burly
Yep.
guys that are all tatted up, and you're like,
Yep.
hey man, I love you. I love you, man. So like warriors that are like, ex-Army Rangers and stuff like that. I
Yep.
love you, man. So,
Yep.
but it builds that bond, and there's nothing like it, other than, that camaraderie that you build in law enforcement or military when you're in combat with somebody. It's a similar type of bond that you build with people, and it's much different than any other kind of friendship.
How are you feeling about being at the helm of next year's retreat?
I'm excited, man. I'm looking forward to that. I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to teach, and the level of people that are there. And I like teaching. I came from a teaching background, so I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be fun, and I think it'll be a mutual learning experience too, because there's going to be people from all over, and the guy that Peter was talking about, the dude that
Mm-hmm.
was a sambo black belt and judo black belt. I'm sure
Yep.
he's got some
That'll
really
be
good
cool.
stuff. That's going to be cool. And then if Jared Fakete is going to be there, that's going to be cool
Yep.
too. Like the coolest dude ever. So he'll be super fun to do stuff
He'll
with.
be he'll be levitating by then.
Oh, I'm sure he will be. Yeah.
All right, man. One other thing that I kind of want to talk to you about. So you are coming in to help us out as a mentor in this new program that we're running. And we asked you for some feedback a little while ago, and you were like, "Man, I don't know how well this is going to go for you because cops are fucking hard-headed, and it's impossible to convince people to do these things to work on themselves." And I figured, I mean, you're here, so it's proof that at least there's one guy, right? And
One.
statistically, you can't be that unique. So help me talk to the people out there who would even consider this kind of stuff. Because I'm sure there's a subset of people, call it even 80% of first responders, that are just like, this is what it is. There's nothing I can ever do about it. Like, it's just part of the job. I'll just be fucking angry forever. There's got to be at least 20% of people who are open to this stuff, right? But maybe still a little bit skeptical. So, what would you share just about your own experience of like why this stuff? And I say this stuff like our retreat and our program, the shadow work that you went through, the journaling. Like, why do you think that this is actually necessary for people to be doing?
I, I think it's necessary because of all of the things that we see on the job. I mean, the job is what I think builds that surface level trauma, because it's day in and day out, and a lot of guys are experiencing more than others, and I've had my share. But you look at some of these other guys that are big metro areas, and they're running and gunning every day, and it accumulates, and it just keeps accumulating unless you have a vehicle to start to examine it and maybe let it go. Um, and I think this is a good way to do it. And a lot of that, like, just being able to peel some of that stuff away, like looking at it and not being tied to it as much. It's it's super hard for cops to kind of talk about this, and it's hard for them to be vulnerable, because being vulnerable as a police officer is not it's not very doesn't help you accomplish your mission, right? So you're supposed to be assertive and take control and all those kind of things, and sitting with a bunch of people and admitting that you're scared, or you're in pain, or you're suicidal, or those kind of things is hard. And but this is the best vehicle for it. Like our group calls, like especially the last couple of weeks, man, they've been intense, but they've been so fulfilling. Like I journal about it and stuff. Like, man, just sitting with a group of guys, and number one, just having somebody listen.
Mm-hmm.
There's people that listen, but they've also been there, or they've been in a similar place, and have them, listen, and then they can share too. It's super powerful, to have that, because you've got ex military guys that are special forces, and you've got ex cops, and there are cops that are still on duty, and we're not alone. You may feel like, well, I'm just going to have to suffer alone with whatever this problem is, or what this pain is that I'm feeling, or this anger, like this deep seated anger that I have. But you're not unique in that, because there's other guys that are going through the exact same thing, or something so similar. You know, um,
Yeah, the men's calls in particular, I think we're onto something really special with those.
absolutely. I mean, even though that,
And
we talk to each other like, well, I don't really know you. Well, we kind of do know you. Kind of do know because we know some things about you that you'd never told anybody else or you barely tell anybody. And it's again, it's that level of trust, right? We just have this kind of inherent trust in those groups, and that makes all the difference in the world, you know?
yeah,
So,
and I think just what you said about a place to be vulnerable, 'cause I think being vulnerable as a first responder, that's like the antithesis of what you're supposed to do, right? Like you're supposed to be a fucking superhero that just like
mhm.
handles everything that's going on. Like when everyone else is vulnerable, you are there to protect them, right? Man, I talked to a firefighter the other day who's sharing, he's in like a leadership position and like a almost like a public relation kind of position at work. So he's like, I have to project strength to the community that I'm in. I have to project strength to the guys under me at work. I have to project strength to my wife and daughter because his wife had her own mental health issues from her upbringing. And he's like, and then after all that, dude, I got to go home and like rake the leaves and fix the dishwasher and like do all that other normal stuff that still needs doing. And he's saying how sometimes after a really bad call, he and his crew will like cry in the truck on the drive back to the fire station and then never talk about that experience like ever again. And I'm like, dude, this is what's missing. Like you're almost there. Like you guys
Yeah,
are actually allowing yourselves to cry, but then
yeah.
like, hey, bro, let's fucking talk about it a little bit more. Because when are you supposed to be vulnerable if you're constantly having to be strong for everyone else? It's exhausting, man.
It is.
It's untenable.
Well, and I think that's what just burns guys out. Like,
Yeah.
and it's inherent in the culture. Like, you have to be strong. You have to just bury it deep and just deal with it. And, well, if you bury it deep, it's going to come back at some point. And for most guys, it comes back like at retirement. And then they end up suck starting their gun because they just can't deal with it. So, unpacking that shit now, at least for me, like before I retire, unpacking some of that shit and getting a handle on it is making a big difference, and starting to come to realization that even though I've been a police officer for a long time, it's not my entire identity. It's something that I've done and something I'm proud of, and it's been awesome, and it's also been terrible at the same time. And you build friendships like no other, but those things are going to end, and that's where the stress comes in, at
Yeah.
least for a lot of guys. And a lot of guys don't even make it to retirement because shit has gotten so bad for them. They don't know where to turn, and they're trying to bottle it all up, and it's got to come out. It's like a pressure valve. They pack it in and pack it in and pack it in, and pretty soon it's going to blow. And
Yeah.
when it does, it's not a good thing. Guys feel helpless and they don't know where to turn. And if you've got at least like, because some of these calls have been fucking intense. Like talking to some of the guys, they're like, "Hey, I had to put myself on a mental health hold." Like, well, good. I'm glad you did, brother. And next time, fucking call me because I'm here. I'm here for you, man. And listen to these guys talk about that stuff. And I, I don't have suicidal ideations. I never have, but I've been through the shit, and I know where they're coming from. So, uh, it it only helps to have that community to talk to. It's so valuable, and you don't realize it until you're there. Like, wow, this is freaking awesome, And even some of the other like the other group, like talking to those folks, they're you get a different perspective on things. Like, "Huh, I never thought about that, but man, that sure opened the door for me. Like, wow, I really want to look into this more. Like, why does this bother me? Oh, somebody mentioned something and it sparks off a memory for you, or goes deep. Like, wow. But then you have that recognition and that 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 brotherhood where you're like, oh, somebody else is going through something so similar to me, and I'm not alone. I'm not alone in working on this.
That's right, man. That's always the coolest thing for me. Like someone mentions something like that's acutely the biggest issue they're facing right now that like just came out of nowhere in the last week. And then three other people are like, "Oh yeah, like I've been through the exact same kind of thing. Here's what helped me, or here's how I felt, or just if nothing else, like, dude, it gets better. I'm on the other side of it now." Right?
Right, right. And we're here for you. We're
Yeah.
here. We're listening. We genuinely want to help if we can. If we can't, we're here to listen. You
Yeah.
know.
All right. Last thing I want to ask you about, Alan. And we don't have to get into the specifics of this, but right around the time that you started this program, you had a lot of family health issues unfolding, a lot of stressful shit.
Hmm.
And the only reason I want to bring this up is I talk to a lot of people who are like, man, this all sounds great, but I just have so much on my plate right now. Like maybe once life calms down. Which is like, well, for one thing, life doesn't calm down.
It's never going to
You know,
calm
that
down.
phrase, if it's not one thing, it's the other. If there's one thing adulthood has taught me, like that is very true. Like there's always going to be some reason that you're too stressed to start now or there's too much going on. So talk to me about that. Did you ever feel like what the work that we got into is almost just adding like more onto your plate to deal with, or do you almost feel like it helped you to
I
shoulder some of those burdens you were going through?
I think as hard as some of this stuff was, as hard as looking at myself in the mirror without that veil of illusion, it helped. I don't think I would have dealt with that situation as well without starting this work. Um, I was able to be a lot more centered and like not let my anger overpower a lot of stuff. And because it wasn't about me, it was about my wife's health problems and taking care of her. But it's super stressful and that. But I don't think I would have come through it as well if I hadn't been doing this program at the same time. There was a lot of work going into this and a lot of work on myself. But yeah, I think it was really beneficial. There's never going to be the best time. It's just like, well, I'm going to start jujitsu when I get in shape. You know what, bro? You're never going to start if you say that because you're never going to be in shape enough. Just go. Just start. And this is kind of the same thing. It's like, just do it. Doesn't matter what's going on in your life because I'll bet a lot of the shit in your life is going to even out and get better because probably a lot of the issues that you're facing is stuff that you're not facing, you know? So
Well put.
yeah, cause really, like, oh, this is really, a problem. Well, pretty soon it becomes not a problem, cause a lot of the root of stuff was dealing with my parents. And now I'm like, it's not bothering me so much anymore, cause I've really worked through it. So that's less of a stressor now, with them. It's still there, but it's absolutely not eating me alive like it was before. And my wife's condition could have eaten me alive too because of the absolute lack of control of that situation. And that's something else for cops too, is being in control all the time. But being
That's
able to
right.
say, well, I'm here, I'll do what I can. Um, I don't have control of that situation, but I've got control of how I can react to that situation. I can react like a complete asshole, or I can take care of business and make it better, you know. And I think that's
Uh,
part of the toolbox that we've got is those realizations.
all right, last thing, tie a bow on everything for us. How would you categorize like the downstream effects of all this? So like, you talked about the anger issues and screaming at people in traffic. I don't know if you would have been arguing with your wife or yelling at your son through all this health crisis. Like, as you reflect on things, basically, like this version of Alan compared to old version of Alan, what's different on a day to day basis, or what might your family notice about you that's different? Because they don't get to see all of the inner workings of the journaling. So, like, what are the external things of like how you go through your day being different now?
Yeah, I think maybe I'm just a little bit more mindful. I think things uh I'm able to take a pause sometimes before the shit really gets to me. And again, it's a work in progress, right? Because some things flip you out, but like, okay, hold up, take a step back. Um, so it's it's definitely made a difference in how I look at things. I'm looking through a different lens now, and like, oh, that's why that tripped me out. Because I kind of had that realization again the other day. Like, why am I such an asshole when I'm in uniform? Well, okay, it's stuff to work on. And so it's absolutely helped me look at some different things, and it's also helped me realize that the root of a lot of this stuff comes from my childhood, and being able to you're talking about shadow work and the inner child and all that stuff. Like, look at those things and like, I'm not that person anymore. I can learn from this. I can learn these lessons, but I don't have to be that way anymore. Um, who do I want to be? Do I want to be an angry asshole, or do I want to be like a happy, cool Zen like person? I'd rather be that because I'd sure be less stressed, you know. So it's a path. It's a path that I'm on now, that I wasn't on before at all. So I'm looking at, like, I want to do cool shit after I retire. So I want to be alive to do cool shit after I retire, and I want to sure be happy doing it, not angry and just disgruntled and hating the world. Because there's a lot of cool shit out there. It's just hard to see it when you're looking through the lens of a police officer because you're dealing with all the crap every single day, you know, and there's so much more out there, that's good. It's just hard to see it. And I think this opens the window a little bit to see some of the things for real because your perception changes. It absolutely changes, like your perception of what's going on and why things are happening. And now, because I'm super judgmental, I look at things differently with people like, I shouldn't look at this person negatively, you know, because who knows what kind of shit they're dealing with, you know, so it does help. Like, well, I'm dealing with shit. I'll bet they're dealing with more shit than I am, you know, because of whatever their issues are, you know, so, yeah.
All right, like I said, ending a little bit abrupt there. Sorry about that. We'll have Alan back on for round 2 sometime in the future, or, you know, his first formal episode. But I think everything that he shared there was incredible. And I even learned some things about him, like how basically all of his trauma from his entire 25-year career policing was pretty much dealt with in one session of our breathwork. And then he was able to look at, like, oh man, I'm all fucked up from this stuff that happened to me as a kid. And I think that experience is actually a very common one, but it's not what people expect whatsoever when they begin this process. So it's really cool to hear Alan describing that. So if you want to learn some more about Alan, you should come meet him at our Operation FlowState retreat. I'm recording this right now in November of 2025. The next retreat is March of 2026. Go to becomingohm.org/flowstate for all of the details on that. Or if you're an active duty cop or retired first responder or veteran or anybody who needs some of this kind of help, get in touch with us on Instagram. So becoming.ohm, it's becoming.om on Instagram. If you're listening to this, you're almost guaranteed to already be following us, but just in case you're not, go find us there, send me a message. If you're 65 years old and you don't use Instagram, that's cool too. Send me an email, hello@becomingohm.org. I want to hear from you. I want to work with you as well. So all of that said, go enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you for checking this out. Peace out. Hare Krishna.